Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Baker Senior Show. Steve, good morning, good
Greetings.
afternoon, or good day, whatever time it is.
Greetings.
Greetings. Thank
That's
you.
it. That's it.
Yeah, so what's going on today? We're going to talk about some miscommunication about Medicare D.
Well, yes, we're going to talk about miscommunication in a way. If you happen to, if anyone out there happens to have signed up with Part D in December in the period October 15th through December 7th, that was the open enrollment period. If you change that and use the prescription finder on the Medicare website, you might want to check it to make sure. Right now, it's February, of course, and it may have been time for you to go back and get some prescriptions filled. And if it's not in alignment with what you think you had, you may want to check with Medicare, and I'll give you the 800 number in just a minute. Remember, though, that most all of the plans now have a deductible, and that deductible varies some in amounts from plan to plan. But you need to keep that in mind when you go pick up your prescriptions about this time of year, because if you haven't met your deductible, then your plan will not align up. But if you have any questions, you can reach Medicare by using this number. The number is 1-800-633-4227. Now, there's a little known secret about Medicare, and I don't know why this is, but it's just the way it is. That number is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call them at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 4:30 in the morning. You can call them at noon. You can call them around the clock, 24 hours, using that number. Again, that number is 800-633-4227. Now, when you reach someone, they're going to ask you, and this is just kind of some inside information in talking with Medicare. If you reach that number, they're going to say there's going to be a recording that says "Welcome to Medicare." The best way to circumvent all of the stuff up front, they want to ask you your social security number or your Medicare number or something like that, date of birth or whatever. But what you say into the speaker, into the phone, is "speak with an agent." Typically, that doesn't work the first time, and you say again, "Speak with an agent, speak with an agent," and they'll say, "Okay, hold on, I'll connect you with somebody." That person who picks up the phone is the person you want to talk with. So you circumvent all of the situation. And if you have any questions whatsoever about your plan, you can tell that person, and at that point, he or she will ask you for your Medicare number and your date of birth and that sort of thing, and your dates for your Plan A and Plan B, Part A and Part B. So once you do that, then they'll be able to pull your information up and see if it's in alignment with what you actually signed up for in the last part of last year. That's if you have traditional Medicare with a supplement. If you have an Advantage plan and you're not happy with the way it worked, if you signed up for an Advantage plan last year, anytime last year, you have the option of changing that if you'd like. After the 12 months period, you don't, but that person will be able to tell you what your options are as far as your prescriptions. Your prescriptions, the plan that she has there should line up with your total prescription. So it's a good idea to check it anyway, and it's just a good idea to check in with Medicare on a regular basis. Not every day, of course, but every 3 or 4 months, give them a call and see if everything is lining up with the information that you have about your prescriptions. Every one is different. On the Advantage plan, you typically you don't have a choice. In other words, the Advantage plan has a prescription program embedded in the plan that you have. So actually, there's almost no way you can maneuver around that. But you can go ahead and talk to the person. If it's late at night, the person may not be very busy, so they may be able to chat with you some about your situation. Whatever questions you have, they'll be able to help you with it. And typically, they will be able to make a change or discuss with you what your options are. That's the best way, most direct way to find out. Your pharmacist can help some, but it's always better just to go right to the source. And the number for that, the way that works out numerically wise, is that the number that I just gave you is turns out like this: 1-800-Medicare. If you
Oh,
prefer,
really?
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
so
Well, I guess if you're the government, you can do that. You can say
yes,
that's my number, and that's it.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
So, Steve,
exactly.
what happened? You said there was some issues. What happened to cause this confusion?
Well, no one really knows. About 2 weeks prior to the open enrollment, what we call the AEP, they decided to change the, what do you call them, algorithms or something. They made a major change in the way you ordered or you lined up your medications when you put them in. So coming out on the back end, some of those didn't get in just right. I don't think they allowed enough time to make sure that everything was in alignment, because sometime early October, remember October 15th was the beginning of the annual enrollment period. So sometime in October, they just decided to do it, which didn't allow enough time for what do you say, gremlins or little things that happen to test the system. So now I understand it is in alignment, but you may not, your plan may not be in alignment with what Medicare has. Just go ahead and check it. Call the person and say, these are my medications, and what do you have, and what plan do I have? You can't always change your plan, but you can talk to them about an SEP. The AEP, annual enrollment period, was the period I was talking about. The SEP is a special enrollment period, and they may be able to, I underline may, they may be able to give you a change there and see if you can change your plan. There's no guarantee of it, so that's the way it is. But it's it's in the person who receives the Medicare. It's beholding to them to go ahead and change it, or have it changed, or at least talk to someone about it. And it may be fine. Everything may just be fine. And in which case you can go back and talk to your pharmacist about if you're being charged too much, or if it's not what you think it should be. So at any rate, that's a handy hint. Part D plans are done by Medicare, of course, and they line up with pretty much with what it is, except this one little hitch that occurred in say October, November, and December, first part of December of last year.
Steve, I have a question for
Okay.
those people. How would they know they have a Medicare Part D? Is it listed on their Medicare card?
Well, no, it's not. You receive a third card. Now, if it's an Advantage plan, you just use the one card, and it is listed on there. But if you have the traditional Medicare, that is a Medicare with a supplement, you'll have a third card in your possession that is your Part D plan.
Okay, so let's
So,
say I have Medicare and I'm not sure. I'm looking at my card, I'm not sure. Do I just call Medicare and say, look, I understand there may be an issue, just checking on my Medicare insurance to see what's covered or if there's any problems with it, and then they can go over the whole thing with them? Or
exactly.
is there a certain word they need to use in order for them on the other end of the line to understand that what you're looking for?
No, no, the words you just used is just perfect. I mean,
Okay,
you can
see?
call them and say, I want to check my plan and see what you have versus what I have, and let's talk about it. And a lot of times they'll tell you what you can or cannot do to alleviate the situation. But
Okay.
it's a lot better. It's a free call. It's better to have a conversation because these are the people that are in the driver's seat. I'm talking about the Medicare person on the other line. They're in the driver's seat. So they might make some suggestions or whatever. And if it's costing you a lot more money than you really believe, remembering, however, that you have a deductible, and a lot of people just forget that. Because you've got say your deductible is $125 or something. You've got to pay that before your actual plan kicks in, and that's what throws a lot of people off.
And who do you pay that deductible to, Steve?
You pay that to the pharmacist when you when
Oh,
you when you when you pick up your drugs.
okay. Is there a different deductible for medications versus a doctor's visit?
Yes, 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 there is. So prescriptions, again, it's the Part D deductible, having nothing to do with your medical deductible.
Wow.
So that's even
Well,
additional
no wonder
confusion.
we need you, Steve. This is very confusing.
Yes, it is.
You can't get it all in one time. And if you're out here watching this on YouTube or Facebook or listening to this on the podcast, the Baker Seniors podcast, I want you to know that we would be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you're unclear about anything that Steve is talking about today, not only do you have direct access to Medicare by using 1-800-Medicare or 1-800-633-4227, but you also can talk to Steve. Steve is more than willing to point you in the right direction, and his number is 832-754-3292. Whether you're looking at helping your parents get on Medicare or whether or not you've got things in the mail telling you it's your time
Right.
to start talking about Medicare, Steve can help you answer any questions that you have, either on the show here or privately on the phone. Right, Steve?
Correct. Correct. Now, I will point this out about the Part D plan. If you're just turning 65 and you fall in a special category, and the special category is we call it aging in or turning 65. If you're in that category, you can do that any time of the year. The area that I mentioned a little earlier is what's called the AEP, or perhaps you may qualify for an SEP depending on what the person tells you on the other end of the line.
Okay,
But
wait a
that's
minute. Don't. Okay, AAP and SAP, what is
AEP. That's the annual enrollment period.
okay?
And someone, depending on their circumstances, for example, if you feel like that your plan that you thought you had is totally out of whack, the person on the other line at Medicare can check that for you, and you may, and again I emphasize may, be eligible for an SEP, or what you call a special enrollment period. But the person talking with you on the other line has all the information, so they can tell you exactly what you are qualified or not qualified for. I just want to mention that if during the year, let's say in July, let's say of this year, or August, you're going to be 65. You're turning 65. In other words, that month is your birthday month. My birthday month is December. What's your birthday month,
March.
Marion? March? Okay. So you're eligible for Medicare that is, if you're going to be 65, that is. So you're eligible for Medicare on March 1st of that year. If by chance you're signing up for turning 65 and your birthday happens to be, let's say, since you told me March, let's just use that. March, your birthday is March 1st. Okay. If it's March 1st, then you're eligible to sign up 1 month earlier. So if your birthday is March 1st, then you're eligible to have your Medicare and your Part D kick in February 1st. Only that one day. Otherwise, it's the first day of the month of your birth month. That's when you're eligible to have your benefits kick in. So again, Medicare people know that, so they'll be able to answer any questions you might have in that regard.
Okay, Steve, I have a question for you that keeps popping up. So I'm sure if it's a question that keeps coming up in my mind, it may be in the other people that are watching this or listening to your podcast. And that is, if I call Medicare and talk to an agent, does that mean I can't use you as my Medicare go-to insurance agent?
No, not at all. There are two kinds of agents. There's the Medicare Agent. That's the official name that they use. That's why I say when you get on the line, keep repeating, speak with an agent, speak with an agent. I, on the other hand, am out in the field, and I am a insurance agent, Medicare insurance agent, which is different. So you may need to use both. So be sure and check. If you have an agent, you can check back with your agent, or you can call Medicare directly, or you can use both. So it just depends. But if you'll call me at my number, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. And remember, this broadcast goes out to all 50 states in the United States. So you may be in any of the 50 states. And I'm not licensed in all of the states, but I can be. But I'll be glad to help you and answer any specific questions you might have.
And I'm sure we all have them. Have you ever met anybody who didn't have any questions and they just said, okay, sign me up?
Never.
Exactly. Now, I don't really understand why it has to be that complicated. You should be able to, I guess, there are different people with different problems and different issues. And so I'm sure there's some, but it's just a little bit ridiculous on how many different possibilities there are for Medicare.
Yeah, well, Medicare started in 1965, and it was simple in those days because it only covered hospital stays. It didn't cover doctor's visits. It didn't cover medications. It didn't cover surgeries. Just for the hospital stay for the surgery. So it was very simple to begin with, and the answer to your question is because over the years they've added a layer, and they said, okay, now we need to change it. We need to add another layer, and we need to add another layer, and then another layer, and this is why we have this program like it is, and why it has evolved into the complications. And you might as Medicare is unique to the United States of America. So you might as well just get used to the fact that it is what it is. You might walk out one day and said, these clouds are bothering me. I don't like clouds. Why do they have clouds? And the other person walking along with you says, I don't know. We just have clouds. That's all I know. Clouds come and clouds go. It is what it is. So you just have to, you just have to understand it as much as possible. And there are people like me uh, all across the country that can, that can help you. And just because I happen to be in one state, which our state, Marion, happens to be in Texas, but just because in Texas, I can't answer general questions about it. And within a few days, if someone really wants me to help them, I can get appointed in whatever state, say Colorado or New Mexico or wherever someone is. I can do that, and within a few days, I can help them to
I
sign up.
think that I think that's important, Steve, because whenever you're dealing with something as important as your health, you want to be able to be comfortable with the person that you're dealing with. I'm going to
Right.
give you an example. I have an insurance agent, and he handles my car, and he handles, a few other things that I have, and that's important to me.
Uh-huh.
But it's not about my health, okay?
Right.
I can call just about anybody and get, a different type of insurance for my car.
Uh-huh.
But for my health, I need somebody that I can relate to. I need somebody who's available and it doesn't look at me as a burden if I ask them a question.
Right. Right.
So if they don't have that in their state, they can reach out to you and, like you said, you'll make it happen.
Hmm.
It's not their problem. Within days, you could be licensed wherever they are anywhere in the United States to help
Right.
them.
Right. Right. Right.
That to me is peace of mind. No
Yeah.
wonder that's part of your tagline, healthcare peace of mind,
Hmm.
because it's true. You really do have all the knowledge of not only using it yourself, but all the people that you have signed up over the years. I bet you haven't run across somebody that didn't already have that problem.
Uh-huh.
It's just the way it is, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right. Exactly.
how many how many people have you been able to help? You probably can't
Hundreds.
even count them all.
Hundreds.
My thought. And
Yeah.
no one ever leaves you, Steve, because you're very personable, you're very knowledgeable, and you care. You care whether or not they have to spend extra money. You care
Uh-huh.
whether or not they're covered when
Right.
they're in the hospital. It could ruin somebody if they're
Sure.
not covered under the right circumstance.
Right.
So if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about a personal experience I had with you.
Okay.
So Mr. Baker assures me that he can handle just about anything when it comes to Medicare. I've known him for years, so I believe that. I've met some of the people that have been in his care. And so when it came time to turn over someone I care about that has Alzheimer's and is moving from traditionally going to the doctor anytime she needs to go to having a doctor that has to visit the personal care home now, Steve took time out of his day to not only meet with her, but also her family members and the home. He even introduced himself to the doctor so that he could make sure that this woman had what she needed when she needed it. She can no longer just get up and go to the doctors when she's not feeling well. She literally has to have somebody come in. So Steve researched everything he needed to for the medications, for the doctor's visits, for the hospital. He came up with the right plan, and now I have peace of mind because she's taken care of. So that's a
Right.
great testimonial for you.
Right. Right. Yeah. You mentioned that particular situation, and I may go years and not run across another situation like that. And it's just the way it is. But I have enough experience that I know what to do, who to call, who to reach out to get the right plan for someone. And sometimes I may not be the person to help someone in a situation like that because I may not be licensed with a company that needs to get involved with the situation. But I can find out, and like in this, in this particular situation, I happened to be licensed with that company that it worked out. So I was able to do it. But I can help people and point them in the right direction. If I can't help them, I know someone who can.
Mhm.
And everybody's situation is different.
Mhm.
So there are people turning 65. There are people that have been 65. The different rules apply for different situations. And I've been doing this over 20 years now, so I know what situation I can help them with, and I know where to go and find the information that I need. And I've come to, particularly about the drug plans. What I will do, I'm not appointed with any of the drug companies. Some agents are. They have certain companies that they get paid for, if and naturally they're going to lead that person to that plan. Years ago, I decided not to do that. So I'm not licensed. I'm not appointed, is the correct word. I'm not appointed with any of the prescription drug plans. I'm not. So it doesn't matter to me, whatever they choose. And most of the time, when I sign up someone on Medicare, I can even do it over the phone using what we call Zoom, and have a conversation like we're having right now, but with them. She's on one side of the screen, or she and he is on one side of the screen, and I'm on the other. And a lot of times I can just sit in my office and get them on my computer system, which is secure, by the way. So we talk about secure things. We're talking about someone's health, so we don't want it out in the internet. So it's a secure site, and I can help them, and we can get on the phone and call, like I mentioned before, 1-800-Medicare, and list out their situation and list their medications, and the person with Medicare is able to come up with a plan for them.
You
They
mentioned something very important, Steve, and I want to go back over that because I know that people that are over 50 might not be aware of what Zoom is. So I'm going to just take a minute here and give you a scenario. So let's say you're in a little town just outside of Oklahoma. You're still in Texas, but you're so far away. There's no way that you could actually meet Steve in person. Like
Mhm.
it's hundreds of miles because Texas is really big.
Right, right,
um, Literally, you could get on your computer or even your cell phone. It doesn't matter. Your cell phone, it would work as well.
right,
And you could connect with Steve where you could see him and he could see you. And then you could not only have a conversation, but you could see him, you could look at his eyes and tell that he
right,
has what it is that you're looking for, a connection, a
right,
real connection with a real person, almost like you're sitting next to each other.
right. Yeah, and I can help you. The only thing I don't have is hair, so I'm not going to do anything
You have
about
a little hair in the back, a
that.
little
A little
bit.
bit, a little bit.
He makes fun of me because I talk about my hair day, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm having a great hair day too." I'm like, "Really, Steve? Really?"
So yeah, but I can help you, definitely. And
Amazing.
if I can't, I know I can't, and I'll explain why, and I can give you information to put you in the right direction.
You won't just leave them hanging. You'll make
Yes,
sure that they have everything that they need.
yes,
Okay, so
and this is true too of people who are underage themselves, but who have parents with Medicare, and the parents may or may not be the right person that I need to speak with. Even a caregiver, perhaps,
mhm,
or someone in the family who's younger, maybe a grandchild even.
mhm.
I can discuss Medicare with almost anyone.
Oh,
Brothers,
there you
for your
go.
brothers, your sisters, your parents, whatever.
There you go.
But but
Fantastic.
but I love to talk about Medicare, and I spend hours and hours. I have a real good friend who does a lot of videos, and his name is Christopher Westfall, and I listen to a lot of his stuff all the time.
It's Medicare 24/7.
Medicare 24/7.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. This has been the Baker Senior Show, and we are live every single Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central Time on YouTube under the Baker Seniors and on Facebook under Baker Seniors. If you're listening to us on your earbuds, you may be on a podcast, and that is just about any podcast app that you have, like iTunes and Google and all the different places where you can go to listen to us. And of course, there's replays. Don't you worry about it. If you can't get us live, you can send us a message, and we would be happy to answer your questions for the next show. We're here every Tuesday, 8 o'clock Central. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
See you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye for now.